Uh-oh. Hey, y'all. It's Sabrina. I am coming to you today. We're going to get into this review for Quantico. Still season 1. We are on episode 12. It's titled Alex. So if you haven't been watching Quantico, what you been doing? What have you been doing? Child, Quantico is so good. If you are into FBI shows, if you're into detective work, if you like terrorism in terms of a plot, and you know, to see us do away with terrorism, definitely you need to check Quantico out. So basics of Quantico is there is a training class from last year. In the original of the series, we're starting in July when a bomb has happened in Grand Central Terminal in New York. And one of the trainees, whose name is Alex Parrish, she was actually framed by the terrorists who did it. So she went through a process to try to get herself exonerated, trying to figure out who was doing the terrorism. So last year, July, is when that Grand Central Terminal was bombed. Very shortly after, you have a bombing of the FBI command center, which 32 agents ended up dying from that particular terrorism act. Okay, so 9 months before the original bombing, Alex and a group of trainees are at Quantico as FBI agent trainees, okay? So when we start on this episode, we have Alex testifying at a Senate hearing because she is claiming that there is not just Elias Harper, who was the terrorist, who everyone else believes worked on his own, had no one with him. He told Alex last time when season 1 ended before we resume, he said, I didn't have a choice, and he jumps out the window. So when he does that, that makes her believe that someone else is forcing him to do it or was a part of it with him. So that's why she's not believing that it's not a master plan behind it, but everybody else is thinking that it was just him and he just did that to stall them so that, you know, they weren't, you know, trying to pursue him so quickly in terms of once they found out it was him. So after the hearing, Alice is at this bar and she is watching the news, and she's watching Claire Hobbs, who is the presidential candidate, who is also married to the executive director, whose name is Clayton Hobbs. And Clayton was actually killed in that second bombing in the command center for the FBI. So she's now running for office. She's going to be the VP if she gets elected. And she's just basically saying anybody with any common sense is going to know that Elias Harper worked alone and, you know, it's all been terrible for us and we just need to really move on as a country and as those who are the, you know, widows and victims of those that passed away. So a guy comes up to her at the bar and is like, let me buy you a drink. And she was like, oh, my drinks are free and you are not my type. So basically, move along. And he was like, oh, I'm not your type. She was like, no. And I don't have time for it. And he was like, oh, you know, trying to still get at her. And she was like, listen, let me give you a rundown about what I know about you. One, I know you're vain because you got your teeth whitened, but you didn't get that molar that's back there with the cavity in it fixed. Two, you're materialistic because that watch you got on your wrist costs way more than I make in a month. Three, you do this all the time because your homeboy over there, when you came up over here, he scooted real quick, so he must know the routine. Four, I know you've never had a meaningful relationship since I know you do this all the time. You've never let a woman get close to you, and you've never been in love. Which leads me to five, you are no good. So that's why I don't got time for you. He was like, oh, so that mean I can't sit down? She said, no, you can't sit down, but, and then they get to rolling all on the wall like they're getting ready to do it. But they don't. Alex was using that as a trick. She's a very crafty individual. Like, her mind is always working on the little stuff that's been said or done so that she can get evidence and come up in a new direction in terms of what's going on, which there is a terrorist on the loose. I just think that everybody on face value wants to be done with it. There's some more things going on in terms of my opinion with this vice president, etc. But I'll get into that a little bit more. Okay. So when she's rolling around on the wall with the guy, she's like, okay, no, I gotta stop. I can't do this. We can't do this. And she ends up pickpocketing him. And something that she takes off of him, originally we don't know what it is. Later on, we come to find out what that is. So the episode flashes back, and this is just the entire time when you're watching Quantico. It's going to flip back and forth. They're going to come present day time to what's happening with the terrorist attacks, and they're going to go back to Quantico when they were training. So you can get a kind of a feel for the different people because, you know, us as viewers, we kind of want to try to see who do we think the terrorist is, right? Okay, so then when we go back to Quantico, we have all the trainees are in the class, like basically working out, and Parrish is getting heat from the trainer, like, what's going on with you? Why your form off? And she was like, oh, and she telling her other girls that's next to her, which is Shelby and Natalie, we need to focus. We fell off. What happened to us? We used to be the bomb when it came to this, because they were doing like these little leg lifts in the exercise part. So in the physical part of the training program, she was like, we used to be the bomb. What happened to us? Oh, dealing with Booth, because Parrish was dealing with Booth, and that whole thing fell apart. Shelby dealing with Caleb, and Natalie, I think the dude's name is Brandon, that she's dealing with. She got a booty call with him. Shelby and Caleb broke up, but he's still following her around because he still honestly does care about her and love her, but she ain't got time for that foolery. So they just basically like, let's get focused. We need to get focused. We need to get ourselves together. We need to go ahead and make sure that we the best of the best of the best. Okay? So then that's what they're going to do. So then you see Miranda's son, Charlie. We see him, Miranda, and another agent who we find out is Agent Maxwell, a friend of Miranda's. She basically came up with her, Miranda knows her family and all that kind of stuff, is questioning Charlie because he just was recently kidnapped and he got free. So they want to know, who kidnapped you? Do you know the faces? Do you know the names? How did you get free? He was like, I don't know. They didn't tie me up good enough. That's how I got loose. That's all I got to say. So they sent him out the room, and Miranda's talking to the lady, basically trying to schmooze her and be like, listen, how's your mom doing? And your family, I know them all. Basically reminding her, listen, we got history, and you should not be trying to interrogate my son this deep. And the lady was like, look, the Islamic Front is getting ready to plan an attack. That's what we believe. And we need to know what's up with Charlie, because we believe that the people that took him might have something to do with the Islamic Front and this attack that's about to go down. So we could do this one of two ways. He can start talking to us and telling us details, or I can take him down to the field office and you ain't going to have any control over what that or what that interview is going to be. So Miranda was like, oh, okay. So we flash back to, we go into actually Caleb and Shelby still at Quantico, and Caleb is basically like, hey, what you want me to do with these Saudi dollars that I got from your fake sister? So she was, at the time when he walked into the room, she was actually on a messenger communicating with this fake sister that she already knows is fake, but it makes you kind of think she's trying to get something going. So Caleb is like, what you want me to do this Monday? She was like, I ain't got time for that right now. Please leave me alone. Please leave me alone. So then they come to class, and when they get to class, normally they there to sit in their seats. Child, there's a whole bunch of people in there. All the seats filled up. They find out that this is the class before 1 month ahead of them. So these people are supposed to be sharper, smarter, tougher, all that good stuff, because they've had an additional month of training. Now, I was trying to figure out, because Alex Parrish is like one of the best FBI agents. I understand 1 month of training could make a difference on what they learn, but the girl is bad. And I'm just like, okay, if a month gonna make that big of a difference, well, all right, whatever you say. Okay, so then they're like, well, what the F? So then Miranda tells them, so this is the class of the month before you. You all are getting ready to go up against them. Y'all gonna have a color war, basically what she calls the turning point. And out of the two classes, whoever wins, 5 people from that losing class are going home. Out of here. Oh, so they are mad, like, dang, how they gonna use somebody else, a class we don't know, people we don't know, some process we wasn't aware was coming. How they gonna use that to eliminate us from this? So they pissed about that, but you got to get over it to figure out what you're gonna do, right? So then we go back to present day. And in present day, Alex is actually cross-referencing Elias Harper's phone records. So she's still on this kick. Like, Alex don't have time to be hearing what everybody else talking about. She's like, listen, it's a terrorist out here. Y'all all slipping. Y'all all slacking. And I need to find what's going on. Natalie, who I believe she's roommating with. I didn't quite catch that they was roommates, but apparently they roommates because they was in the same place. So either Alex is staying at her place or they are roommates. Either way, they're there together and they're talking. Natalie's telling her, listen, you need to recant your statement because you could go back to work. She was like, the only reason why I'm on leave is because basically she's not agreeing with what the entire bureau is saying. So they're going to put her on administrative leave. She's like, I'm not recanting my statement. We need to find this needle. Natalie's like, listen, with everybody, with Shelby, Caleb, she just was naming people that over these months that this has been going on, they have been looking for this terrorist. And she's like, there is nothing, so you need to let it go. Alice is like, just because you didn't find evidence doesn't mean it doesn't exist, and we need to find this needle. We need to find this needle. She's like, there is no needle. That's what Natalie was telling Alice. There is no needle. Alice is not trying to hear that. She is hell-bent on that there is a terrorist, and she's going to find it. Okay? So we get a scene with a man on a bridge talking to the police, and looks like he's about to jump. The police like, just come and talk to us. He was like, no, just give Alex Paris my message. And the police was like, well, you could tell her yourself. He was like, no, just please are you going to give it to her? And then he jumps. But they eventually tell us what the message was, but the man did say that I didn't have a choice. So it's day 2 of testimony, and we have a recording of the scrambled call that came in when they initially reported the bombing that was going to happen at Grand Central Terminal. Yeah. So the bombing that was going to happen at Grand Central Terminal, somebody called it in to 911 and said there's a bomb, it's going to go off. The person who put it there is from the Quantico class of whenever. So then that's what automatically made them jump off in earlier episodes, that it was somebody from the training class that was a terrorist. So they unscramble it, and then they asking Simon Asher, who is one of the guys that was in the training class with Alex, and he actually helped her in that process of them trying to find out who was actually framing her for the original terrorist act, which was the Grand Central Terminal. So he just testifies, and he's like really upset. He was just like, I know without a doubt that it's Elias Harper that's on that recording. I know without a doubt that he worked alone. I have spent too much time researching. I have spent too much time picking apart every single thing he said, every single thing he did, to know that there was no other person. And without a doubt in my mind, he worked alone. Which makes Alice look even more crazy, because everybody, and these people that were in her class, first of all, if you're going to Quantico, we all know you have to be bright, you have to be sharp, you have to have some physical ability to be able to be trained to become a fully functioning FBI agent. So Simon Asher was like, he was a good agent as well. Now, he was not better than some that were in his class, but he was still a good agent. He helped Alex, knows about computers and all that kind of stuff. So it's just kind of like all these people in this class, these leaders and executive directors and stuff like this, they don't believe it. Why is this girl still holding on to it? So it just makes her look bad, because she will not let it go. So then they go back to Quantico, and the new trainees are researching the old trainees. And because, of course, the old trainees knew they were coming in and that this color war was going to happen, the new trainees didn't. So the old trainees have had time. And when I'm saying old trainees, I'm talking about the people that were a month ahead versus Alex class, which is the new trainees, okay? So the old trainees have had time to vet the newbies, and the newbies have not had time to research. So when they're vetting, they're like looking at their files, seeing what their family history was, anything that would be their triggers, their weaknesses, their strengths, so you can know how to basically take them over, take them down, beat them. So the newbies, you got to use what you got to get what you want, right? So what they do is they use social media. They start researching and Googling and looking in, different, I guess, the FBI database or whatever, and they start finding information. One guy was in the military, one guy was in the I believe he played football for Chicago, got drafted or whatever. And then we have another girl who they know plays dirty. She actually the girl, her history was that she started all of these little individual businesses and end up successfully suing every last one of her partners for full ownership of the company. So they know she's a dirty player. So as they are going through these activities of fighting, running races, they letting these old people know, we know your business, we know your tea, right? So excuse me. So Alex, she lost her race. Caleb whooped the man's ass. Shelby, when her and the little Asian girl, her name is Iris, when they got into it, Iris hit Shelby in the face so hard, Shelby was just like, whoop. And the girl's like, oh, my bad. I still have my rings on. Child. Shelby punched that girl in the face so hard and told her basically, Trick, I just punch harder. Why are you down on that pad? I just punch harder. Catch that. Okay? I thought that was too funny when I saw that. So Miranda is talking to the twins who are FBI agents as well, Nima and Raina. So they are actually trying to convince her to let them talk to Charlie so that they can try to get the info. So she's considering it, because if he ain't talking to her, you know, what would hurt for them to try to get the information? Because either way, he's just going to either say no, or he might possibly get information. She knows he's not talking to her because, you know, if you watch the episode, you know what their relationship is. And for those that don't watch, Miranda and her son have a very tumultuous relationship. He actually was accused of like being involved with terrorists, which I think that was the result of his kidnapping. Like, he originally had started with a radical group and was like, I don't know if they had bombed, I can't remember if it was like they bombed something or they were getting ready to bomb it. That's what it was. They were getting ready to bomb it. He got caught. He has a felony, etc. But and his mom is the one who turned him in. Now she's a agent and a head person, a director at the FBI. I can't, you know, I got to, but he was kind of upset about that. Anyway, that's on another topic. So Caleb comes to Shelby. He's like, your sister contacted me. You reached out to her? And she was like, what? And he was like, yeah. What's your plan? Because she thinks you ratted her out. I didn't tell her that, you know, you knew she was a fake. And she was like, thank you. She was like, I haven't really figured out my plan. So we know she have an ulterior motive for trying to still talk to this person, right? So they send the recruits to Hogan Alley to break the tie. So when Caleb did his event, everybody's done their events. They've gone against each other, the two teams. There's a tie. And they said they never have had a tie in the history of this happening. So in the history of them bringing the oldies to verse the newbies, either the newbies won or the oldies won, and 5 people went home from whichever class. But they've never had a tie before, so now they have a tie. So they got to go to Hogan's Alley, which is basically like a little training area where one set is going to pretend to be hostages, one set is going to pretend to be the hostage rescue team. Okay? Back in present day, Shelby and Alex are talking. Shelby is pissed off. She's still mad because all her business got spilled because Alex will not let this situation go. Because Alex won't let this situation go, it is requiring the FBI to continue to leave this case open because it feels incomplete, because you have someone saying, hey, there is a terrorist out, based on us knowing that this attack happened by this person, Elias Harper. So Shelby's like, I didn't want everybody knowing that I had an affair with Clayton. So remember I said Clayton Hobbs was married to the VP when he passed away in the bombing? He was married to the VP. And him and Shelby, catch that now, if you didn't watch the show, I'm just going to put you on this a little bit. Shelby, who was dating Caleb, his name is Caleb Hobbs. Caleb is Claire and Clayton Hobbs' son. He originally was dating Shelby in training, and somehow eventually after they got out of training and stuff, Shelby and Clayton ended up having an affair. So that got out because all of this stuff is having to be investigated. Like, why were you there? What was your purpose? What was going on? What was being said? And, you know, some points when they start digging, some stuff is going to come out that you didn't want to, either from other people or from yourself. So she's pissed about that. She was like, I had to change my whole life. I quit my job. I had to move to a whole nother city because I was tired of people harassing me about what I supposedly did and my involvement in it, because you just cannot let this foolishness go. And then Alex is at the police station and she's talking to this officer comes up to her and he's like, Duncan Howell, you know him? And she was like, yeah, he wanted me to send you a message. Because everybody at this point know Duncan Howell jumped. And he said, I didn't have a choice. And the officer was like, do you know what that means? And she just didn't say anything to him, but you can see her wheels are turning and she understands that. She's a very, very intelligent, like smarter than the other people. Like, she sees stuff in ways that none of the other trainees ever will, ever. Even if they are currently working with the Bureau, none of them are ever going to see things the way Alex sees it. They're never going to be able to get on her level of intelligence, of reaction, of investigation, and none of that. So you can see her wheels turning when he tells her that, because that's the same thing Elias said. Remember that. So then we're in day 3 of testifying in the Senate hearing, and it's Miranda and Liam at this time, of course, because they run the trainee program within Quantico. So they're basically saying we should have seen the signs that Elias Harper was unstable. We know what those signs are now. We will not ever ignore them again. He did work alone. There is no terrorist mastermind behind this whole situation. It was only Elias Harper. So the hearing committee is like, well, okay. You're saying it. Everyone else is saying it. Why doesn't Alex Paris say it? Why is one of the people who you said was the brightest recruits in basically all of FBI history believe that he didn't work alone? And Liam basically says it's not of any fault of her own. What he said was she was the brightest and we broke her. When we went along with the whole plot of allowing her to appear guilty for that crime and trying to find out who actually framed her, the FBI broke her, and I take responsibility for that. So, Alex and Miranda talk outside. Alex had really got on Miranda's all the way bad side because she brought up her child. So they talking, and Miranda's basically tell her, let it go. Let it go. I know that as detectives, we want to pick apart everything and we're conspiracy theorists, but some stuff is just basically is what it is. And you need to let it go. And she was like, but I know it to be true and we are not safe. And she was like, she said something to the effect of, just because we think it's true doesn't mean it is. And Alex said to her, you thought Charlie was guilty. And Miranda was like, you should not have even went there. Basically, like, you done touched on some toes, baby, and you should not have gone there bringing my child into this. I know he is a criminal, but you should have not brought his name into that. She walked up on her because she was pissed. You don't bring no better child into the business. Like, what you thinking about? So, the twins actually go talk to Charlie, right? So first is Nima. She don't get anywhere. Charlie like, I don't know you. You don't know me. And you don't know the people that took me. And I'm not saying that I am good to be here and alive. So I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. How about that? So Nima she didn't quite feel too good because Charlie wasn't trying to hit her. So, my thoughts just all the way went out the window. Okay, so now we're back at Hogan's Alley where they're actually doing the training, what you want to call it? The training exercise, that's what we're going to call it. They're in Hogan's Alley. They've chosen, the newbies are the hostage rescue team and the oldies are the hostages. So they got Caleb in a room. He's the monitor telling them, he can see the rooms. It's clear. Go this way, do that way. They shoot off somebody at the door, the chick Iris, the Asian girl who had hit Shelby in the face with the rings. So they shoot her off, which the oldies knew at that point they're following the HRT rule book to the letter. So that let them know, hey, we can go ahead and get in here and get them, and they ain't gonna know what's going on. So they bring her into that little command area where Caleb's looking at the thing. He was like, it's all clear, it's all clear. Try to go in there. And them people start to shooting. Boop, 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 pow, 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 pow. Okay? So they start shooting. And they were like, it's clear. Caleb's like, what's going on? He was like, oh, they done hacked it. They hacked it. So they hacked it to show a loop of video that was actually clear, but then it actually wasn't, right? So Alex was like, bump that. If we flying blind, they gonna fly blind. So they threw some smoke bombs in there and they went in and just started busting, pow, 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 pow. Okay, so they busting. While that's going on, we go back to present day, and Booth is visiting Alex. For those that don't know, Booth and Alex actually had a relationship during training. He actually was sent there to spy on her in the training. Nobody knew that he was actually already had been through Quantico, graduated. He was coming in as a trainee. They ended up falling in love and all that kind of stuff, and then they was mad at each other, don't like each other anymore. So he's telling her basically, you selfish. First of all, I know you stole dude's little chip thing at the bar when you met him. Told dude, I know you met the dude. I know you stole his thing. So what it was it allowed her access into his system. He was a CEO of a telecom company. So it allowed her access into the system. She was cross-referencing Duncan Howell's records on the phone, and she was cross-referencing Elias Harper's records. So what she's trying to find out when she cross-referenced them, if what we have on paper matches what was in the system, to make sure that there was not anything omitted in terms of phone calls and interaction that took place on the phone. But Booth is telling her, you selfish. Let it go. We all know what it is. We know Elias Harper worked again. Again, everybody's on that same kick. Elias Harper worked alone. Elias Harper worked alone. And Alex ain't with it. So he just told her, you selfish, blah, blah, whatever. So we back to Quantico. They flying blind. They put in the smoke, and they get the busing. As they run through busing, it is basically announced that the oldies have already ran out of the room with the money. So the whole purpose of the exercise was to keep the hostages alive and keep the criminals from taking the money. So they're like, how did that happen? Child, these folks done dressed these hostages up in the full gear, and that's who they were shooting. Had done taped the gun to the man's hand and everything. So Alex and her, the newbie class, they're actually shooting the hostages. They shot 4 of the hostages because they thought it was the terrorists, okay? So they're mad because they're like, that's not fair, that's not fair. And they're basically telling them there are no rules in criminal activity. Remember that when you're in somebody else's home, when you're going into a criminal's home, they already have home court advantage. They've had a lifetime to prepare for this attack that you might be bringing upon them when you've only had 60 seconds from the time you got in here to see what's here, what's in that corner, what's going on. So she just reminded them of that. So at this point, we know the newbies have lost, and now 5 people are supposed to be sacrificed on their team, right? So then we flash to technically, I guess, the last day of testifying, and Alex recants her testimony. She basically tells them, this is what I believe. This is what happened, and protocol basically says that I should still continue to pursue this. But I recant my statement so that we can all move on. Elias Harper worked alone. Everybody's in uproar. Oh, Alex. And then somebody hollers out in the daggone courtroom, Alex, are you being forced to say that? I was like, child. No, Alex knows what she's doing. One, what's going to happen is it is going to allow the activity of the terrorists to come to the forefront. That's what I believe, because if the terrorist believes she no longer believes it, then they may feel like they can go ahead and come on and attack and do whatever they need to do and move on with their plans. 2, it gets the people around her off of her back because she's going to be able to research it without them looking into it. Meaning how Booth knew that she had stole that man's thing and was looking through records. That's because this investigation actively is open, and she is actively telling them that she wants to know who had something to do with it, and that she knows Elias didn't work alone. So based on her leaving that alone, it's going to allow the terrorists on their end to possibly keep their plans going and for us to really see that there is something going on. And then it's also going to get everybody else off her back to allow her to research, I think, on her own. I think that was her process behind it. So, but after she does that, they got the nerve to be mad at her. Booth mad, Asher mad, and Shelby just basically threw a little shot. Now you see how I feel. She was like, well, Booth, you need to tell them you told me to do it. He was like, I didn't tell you to do that. I told you to tell the truth. Well, how are you going to tell me to tell the truth that there is no Elias Harper working with somebody else when that's not what I believe? You want me to tell your truth. You don't want me to tell my truth. That's what I would have told Booth if I was Alex. But she just couldn't understand why everybody was mad, and I didn't get it either. But anyway, so Natalie tells her at that point, now that she had she recanted her statement, so now you're reinstated. I'll see you back at work on Monday. So we go back to Quantico, and we learn that 3 guys from the newbie class get cut. So they all like, okay, well, we still got 2 more people to get cut. Then the oldies come and was like, oh, so that's how y'all gonna play it? You're gonna go whine and complain, so now we don't get 5 people from y'all class? And they're like, well, what are y'all talking about? And they was like, oh, so you don't know that they cut 2 people from our class? So what they end up doing was actually cutting 3 from the newbie class, which was probably 3 of the raggediest trainees in there anyway. And then they cut 2 people from the old class, which probably the raggediest trainees in their class. So Miranda comes to tell them, hey, we combining the classes, get to know each other, etc., etc. Then we have Raina, twin number 2, going and talking to Charlie. Well, Raina tells Charlie how she actually was like kidnapped and all that kind of stuff, and she kind of basically related. Oh no, that's not what it was. She was saying how she wrote an essay. The essay was about these things that were flying over in Dearborn, Michigan, where they live, supposedly something to do with the military. And I had propped my camera up here trying to get it to do right, basically rigged it up. So that's why it's doing that right now. Okay. We good. So she basically told him, hey, I had wrote this paper when I was in middle school or high school, and the paper was about military drones flying over in Dearborn, Michigan, and what that meant and stuff. And they came to her school. The FBI came to her school, pulled her out. She said interrogated her for like 10 hours. And, you know, that opened Charlie up to understand that somebody has been through the experience of, one, the FBI interrogating them, and two, being a part of something that may have had to do with terrorism or something like that. She just was basically saying because she wears, I think it's the jihad is the proper term for it, but, you know, for Islamic women, the head covering. Her sister doesn't wear it. She does. And she just was saying, basically, because I wear that, this is how they see me. And I am still an American, is basically what she told them. So Charlie opened up. He gave her some names. That's all he knows. And she didn't even tell anybody what she goes and does. So let me tell you, I don't like her sister. And this is just, I mean, I like them in the sense of that they both are bad. Like, they are good FBI agents. But I don't like her sister, especially when we're seeing the flashes from Quantico training, because she is so, the word I'm trying to look for, she is so, she's arrogant. She's really arrogant about her skills versus her sister's skills. And I think it's just bull that you feel like you think that your sister is lesser than, you know, whatever. So when she goes to Raina and she tells her, she said, hey, did he talk? And Raina was like, no. She was like, yeah, I pretty much knew that. Da, 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 da. Basically, like, I knew you weren't going to get no information from him, Trick. Meanwhile, little does she know, or quiet as it's kept, Raina has the information and has started talking to the terrorists. So she's doing her own side investigation, which that's going to be a whole other mess because don't nobody know she's doing it. Now, I'm sure the computer she's working on, you could track that information. But I'm just saying off top, this is how we get situations where she's going to be somewhere, meeting somebody somewhere, and ain't nobody going to know her ass was there. That's all. So, we flip back to, oh no, we're not flip back. We're still at Quantico training time. So then Shelby and Caleb are at a restaurant, but Shelby's sitting by herself and this man comes and sits by her. And so he said, bring your associate Caleb Hobbs over here. And she kind of looking real, how you know? So Caleb comes over there and the man tells them, my wife was the one pretending to be your sister. So it comes out that this lady was working for whomever, we don't know who, but basically an organization or a set of criminals who had her pretend to be the sister of Shelby in order to get money from her. And now this person is missing. Someone has kidnapped her. So he wants them to help. So she was he said the wife was real young when she agreed to do it. And basically once you agreed to do it, these people will kill you or do what they have done, kidnap her, possibly having killed her if she did not continue to do it. When she told them she was stopping because, of course, Caleb buzzed her and the husband was like, it's your fault that she got kidnapped. No, it's her fault because she agreed to steal. I mean, I didn't get that part. But anyway, so because you busted her, and she said, I'm not doing it anymore, the people kidnapped her because she refused to continue to get the money. Now, we're back at present day. So now Alex is actually getting harassing calls. And some of the harassing calls are coming from people, you know, every day. You let us down. We depended on you. Why did you lie? So you lied in the beginning or you lying now? So every time she answers it, she hangs up. Oh, but she gets another. So then she gets a call on her house phone. So that's what made it real different. Like she got a couple calls, hung up on the people once she realized they were just calling to berate her about changing her state.